And welcome everyone, and hi Callum on our next umbraCoffee, episode 124.
Before, yeah.
Could you imagine? Time flies. Today we have some public holidays in various areas of the world. UK, Denmark. Yeah, nothing like that in Poland today, at least. But if you are here, if you're watching us, good for you, good for us. And if not, we will stay on YouTube to of course rewatch it whenever it will be good for anybody else. How are you, Callum? By the way,
I'm good. It's been a busy week as usual. There's not been a week gone by the past few weeks where it's not been busy, but a lot of exciting things happening this week too. Lots of stuff to catch up on, which I think we're going to have a chat about. How about you?
This week was really good. I think the previous one was a little bit, the one in the downsides of the whole situations. But this one was really good, active. I think I rested a lot during the break last week when we had a public holiday and great weather. Great weather is helping as well today to get some good mood. And yeah, as you said, a lot of things, really interesting things happened during the week from our professional point of view, let's say, as well, which makes it all more interesting. And we may start from the first thing, because we titled the episode an open source and open mind, because it was really a lot. There were a lot of activities around open source communities, and GitHub launched the GitHub Satellite virtual event. And Callum, I know you've been watching it and following it live. So maybe you can highlight your point of view, but we've been teased by a lot of interesting announcements and interesting news.
There was a lot of great stuff. So it started, obviously, GitHub would normally run quite a large event called GitHub Universe, and I think Sebastian from Umbraco HQ, in fact, went over to that last year in San Francisco.
Yes.
This was a virtual event to tease some of the new stuff they've been working on to improve life for teams, basically, and the product. And it started with a keynote from Nat Friedman, the CEO, who did a roundup of all of their new features. And literally every single new feature they just mentioned, my jaw dropped even further. It's kind of crazy to think that 2 years ago, no one would get excited about a new GitHub feature, and there probably hadn't been any new GitHub features in a very long time. And then Microsoft sweep in. And
how skeptic were people when they realized that Microsoft bought GitHub. And
there is some really interesting stuff going on here. And as I discussed on Twitter, there's a lot of lines being blurred between Microsoft's products, GitHub, and they are aggressively competing against some of the other offerings out there to effectively become that one-stop dev shop for everything. So
I will open this tweet, because I really like how you compared those products, and it's here, So because I also joined some discussions how no, not this one, how the hell they are not going to compete with themselves, right? With some products like Azure DevOps and GitHub Actions, if they're right now going towards the same direction and allowing to do almost the same things on the two different locations. But it's for the repos, actions, also areas like Patreon and products like Patreon.
These are all features that they've announced in the past 12 months. And so free repos for public and private repos and for teams, that just wipes out any kind of other source control service like Bitbucket. They mentioned as part of the keynote this week that GitHub Actions is now the #1 CI tool on GitHub. So it's outpaced Azure DevOps and even some of these AppVeyor, which has been around for years, in a matter of months, which is insane. Sponsors is literally a way of supporting open source software, and what better place to do it than through the GitHub repo itself. So Patreon, discussions is basically baking a forum into each Git repo. This was something that was announced as part of the announcements this week. And Gitter, which is like a chat for Git repos, which Umbraco had before, Stack Overflow, those kind of places. This is, again, it's baked into GitHub. It's really insane.
And code spaces, of course, which is the
This
built-in code editor running in the cloud, in the web.
Mind blowing. And I didn't know until this week. There's another one I think called GitPod, which does a very similar thing. But effectively, this is VS Code, as in the lovely editor that we like to use, running in the browser.
They bought a couple companies on the way, because I remember one of the products being, outstanding version of Visual Studio Code in the browser. Then they bought them and created the Visual Studio Online. And then again, right now bundling it into the GitHub platform, which right now we were even talking earlier how it can affect our Umbraco community and the contributions inside of our community. And
imagine like so I right now as a developer, to run Umbraco, I have to clone the repo, the source. I have to clone the repo. I have to have .NET and Visual Studio and a Windows machine, and I have to build it, and I have to do a node install and all of this stuff just to get the code base even running. And then there's all kinds of issues where, you've not got these right permissions set or something, and it just doesn't run. This, with a couple of clicks, literally spins up a container in the cloud, and it's a development environment, and you can just start running. So for Umbraco, it's going to make the barrier to contributing so much easier. In fact, I might get rid of my my MacBook and just have a Chromebook or something, because everything could be done through a web browser. And they showed as part of their demo, like a really slick flow of, I go into here, I make a change, and then you can go over to the left-hand side and commit straight to GitHub. And then the kind of flow is just so natural.
What about plugins? Did they say anything about supported plugins? Because I'm just curious right now. We are one step towards just running IIS Express or anything like that from here, right?
Well,
and Warren literally was saying a couple months ago and asking what are our feelings about editing HTML or CSS or JavaScript files from the browser, and right now we have a fully functional IDE in the browser, right?
So yeah, it's a fully functional IDE. I think the thing to really reiterate here is VS Code itself is built in JavaScript. It's an Electron app. It runs in JavaScript on your computer. So running it in the browser isn't actually that crazy an idea. It's already running inside Chrome effectively on your desktop. So every single thing you can do in VS Code works here too. Meaning, if you've got a plugin or an extension, you can install that and run it. And because it's backed by this private container, you can kind of configure everything and set everything up. They discussed, there was some kind of convention where I think you could create like a .settings repo or something in your GitHub account. And if you had that, it would pull all of your IDE preferences from there. So you can have like, a color scheme set and all that stuff across all of your code spaces, and just get up and running. And then the thing that I was truly gobsmacked by was the demo. They like ran like Node, and it span up a local server on localhost 3000, and they could click the link localhost 3000, and it would go to a cloud environment where you could see that in real time. Do an update, it refreshes. It's like,
Yeah, there are some servers like that. Same with the IIS Express. If we will be able to control how containers are created, what tools and what software is injected there, that's massive. It's really amazing movement, and also the example of power of container stuff and things like that, which are just triggering it for us and allowing us to contribute into stuff from literally from anywhere right now, because in tablets, mobiles, whatever, you can just open it and edit stuff. Commits, done.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got the GitHub mobile app now as well, which is like even more whatever. And the thing that for me was like the biggest instant win for the Umbraco community was this new feature called Discussions, which, as I mentioned, is just a forum baked into GitHub. But like we've had this constant ongoing debate of RFCs,
Our versus issues tracker, yeah.
where do we find them? Discussions about features shouldn't happen on the issue tracker. That should just be for issues. And here, this is integrated, and you can easily turn an issue into a discussion and vice versa. So you can bring a discussion back and say, no, this is something that needs to be fixed. That it just makes so much sense, and it's so tightly but nicely integrated. I'm blown away.
And still, we are usually talking about piece of software, about Umbraco, about usage of it, about issues with it, technical, less technical, editorial and stuff like that. It's all here. I was not aware of this feature at all, and that this is coming, and it just looks great. And as you said, it might be a massive improvement to contribution in Umbraco community, but then also possibly new way of using our as a portal for community members.
Well, yeah. So imagine on our Umbraco right now, you have a forum per package almost.
Yep.
Well, that forum should probably just live on the GitHub repo with that package. And the same goes for, having our Umbraco GitHub repo can have a forum almost within it. I don't know. There's so
forum without software for forums.
Yeah. So they've literally cornered everything. You've got your source code, you've got your CI/CD through GitHub Actions, you've got your issues for tracking tasks and issues, as well as boards. You have discussions for all of the chatter and maybe like anything you need to do around it. They've got wikis for your documentation. They've literally, it's a project in a box.
Pages for websites and for exposing pages.
Yeah, they've really nailed it. And then the one final thing they discussed, which is just kind of icing on the top, is automated security scanning. So they acquired a company called CodeQL. CodeQL is a way to it effectively understands code. You can query through code, and so with automated code scanning, it can do things like, hey, you've got a SQL, you're not sanitizing input from like a web request to a database, you're just passing that straight through, and it will follow the code through and go, okay, you're not sanitizing there. Yep, you never sanitized it, I'm going to raise that as an issue. And these can run automatically as part of a build process on commit even. And it's pluggable, so the community can jump in and create their own. So I'm sure, like, if we had a specific Umbraco vulnerability, for example, we could say, yep, you shouldn't be doing that we can use the code scanning. You shouldn't be doing that. We recommend you do this instead, and it will flag up whenever someone does a commit or whatever.
Yeah, I did test some tools like that with like CodeSE, OWASP scanners and stuff like that. And what I noticed as well is that as a developers or as a teams, we can then focus on bigger problems or concepts around the whole software rather than stupid things which can be just highlighted by tools. And static code analysis, security scan checks, things like that. I think there is where GitHub will be going, because probably next step will be about static code analyzers. They are asking for it during the sign up for beta, because I signed up for this beta feature, and they're asking you what code type you are using, because they are preparing for that for the next phases. And this is awesome. Again, OWASP scanners, for example, you've mentioned that a couple of weeks ago about OWASP scanner for GitHub Actions. There is the same one for the Azure DevOps. Right now, you can use both. It's amazing, right? Amazing things. And private instances, what's them? Because
this is for enterprises where they can effectively, the ways to run GitHub if you're an enterprise and you're a bit security conscious are GitHub Cloud, and it's all public and shared, or you self-host it. But this is now, they're offering like proper privatized environments in the cloud, so no one has to self-host anymore. And with it comes a whole bunch of improvements to statistics and analysis. I think they saw that if you use GitHub within your internal organization for doing your source control, it's got a massive increase in productivity or engagement from new developers, which is fantastic. It just shows that the GitHub product's actually kind of loved, and people do want it to be easily accessible from logging in on the cloud or something. They also said, which was super interesting, was since January, GitHub engagement is up by, on average, an extra hour every day across the board. So whilst we're locked down at home, people are spending an extra hour a day on GitHub, either creating issues or whatever. And they announced as well that any activity going forward on GitHub will be tracked in the contribution graph. So that's if you're raising issues or taking part in discussions, that will count as a contribution. They're trying to recognize contributions beyond just code, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's true. And I just highlighted one comment regarding the whole battle between DevOps and GitHub Actions. That's exactly that it was available, but it required maybe not a lot, but some of the efforts to configure it, to do it, to find it, to use it, some external tools. And if it's going to be bundled in the product and in the one offering, I think most and definitely a lot of companies will decide to pay for one single service and an ecosystem. And right now it just plays so well together that there's no need to even explore more things.
I was saying this to Marcin before we went live, that the reputation that GitHub itself has with developers, regardless of the tech stack, is invaluable. Yeah, like they won. So by Microsoft controlling this, they've got Azure DevOps, which may be better focused towards enterprise, and GitHub, which is way better for the public-facing community stuff, and maybe for the people who don't want to use or aren't using the Microsoft stack. So there's definitely going to be a crossing and a collision at some point where they both are doing the same things. In fact, it already happened last week. Microsoft went, we've renamed Visual Studio Online Editor to Azure or Visual Studio Code Spaces. It's like Code Spaces. That name sounds familiar. So they've got two products that do exactly the same thing with the same name. But they're definitely going to be there's going to be a point where DevOps is maybe more for enterprise and organizations, whereas GitHub is for open source projects, I guess.
But think again, it's really drives us to really another topic on our board about talking about tools and even packages about software pieces. What's the most important part for us as a users or buyers or people who are going to use them, and really started this poll, right? So what is more important? And I think again, after those discussions right now, we can say that also the simplicity or trust in ecosystem is one of those things, because if you will know that everything will work and you will save then time, so referring to this functionality, and you know that someone big is behind it and they will maintain it, they will make sure that you will use it even despite of the failures or problems with anything, because they will always be there no matter of the piece of software we'll be using. Functionality, simplicity, and just free mind is always, in my opinion at least, important. And people proved it here that if it works and it has features which you are looking for, you can pay any type of money if it will save your time and do the thing.
There were some fantastic points raised in this thread. I like yours about heartbeat being quite important. That something can be free and open source and have great functionality, but if it's not maintained, then that's a problem. Similarly, I love Mark Goodson's analogy here, which is whenever installing a package, the rule of thumb is, what would we do if we didn't install this package? And often it shows that quite a lot you can achieve certain things quite simply with just the core product, but also it does the opposite, where it shows we would be investing a week of development just to get this piece of functionality working, and the package is there and off the shelf and ready to use.
Yeah, but I've observed it really, really often that people said, "Oh, I won't pay for that. I will do it myself."
I joked on the thread how many clones of Richard Soapman's Media Protect exist. There's 10 of them, and we see 2 or 3 new ones each year. It's a €99 package. Just pay for it.
Yeah, but there are a lot of various teams, and I literally understand some of them, because some people really wants to build something by themselves. The development rules don't reinvent the wheel, but still, my wheel is better than your wheel if I will build it, right? Stuff like that. I always flag it on my talks, that tabula approach, which is kind of save. Turn the world upside down to save 15 zlotys or the $4, but you can do it. You will do it, and people are often doing it, and I'm highly against it because as I've said, if someone is behind something, they've done the work, they handle maintenance, and they will make sure that you are happy after paying whatever amount of money you are paying for some kind of service, and it will save your time, efforts, and you can focus on the real value of what it does if you need it. What else do you need, right?
Exactly. And in the Umbraco community, we've got some great examples of that. Like, let's say Kevin Jump, fantastic.
Yes.
Creating great packages, both commercial and free, supporting them well. I think he's got that amazing balance of functionality, cost, accessibility, solving people's problems. And in some ways, he's done such a good job. People don't really think about, I'm going to try and build usync. Like he's one of
yeah, that's a good example. Yeah,
he's solved that problem. So he's done it really well. There's other places where, other places where, like, as we said, someone creates 5 versions of the same package. There's been a couple of things this week where, like, people went, I didn't find a package for this, so I've gone and created one. It's like, it does exist. It's here.
But it's sometimes it's because lack of knowledge. We are not, we are not all of us Elon Musks with new ideas and unique ideas, and even when someone we're thinking about Facebook, there were 7 other people who were thinking about the same, right? So it's always like that. So it's always about exposure, and I think that we try to help to highlight some of those works as well. But it's good. It's good point to talk about maintenance, because we've also seen a thread from Rasmus this week. Heartbeat is important. Keeping package up to date and living is really important, and Rasmus wants to make it alive, and also the package for GraphQL was awesome.
This stemmed from a discussion about if you were going to do headless without hosting on Umbraco Hardcore because you can't for whatever reasons. What would you do? And custom web API or GraphQL, that sort of thing. Now the discussion was like, GraphQL is great, but it's not been updated in a while. And I'm going to say I don't think this was fair, because 6 months for a package that's working and is good, I think is a heartbeat.
Yes, I think if it works, that works, right? That's the truth. And I was preparing the workshops for UK Festival, right? By the end of the year, and I tested this package really, really extensively, and it just does its job, and still was working. But even here, it was good to say, okay, that's if anyone wants to help. And just ensure that just do it. It's open source. It's not like because of the whole confusion probably is because Rasmus joined the HQ, right? Worked on the GraphQL for headless, and it's not like that. The product is a product. It's a package, and everyone can contribute and use it. And I see people using it, so that's just help and contribute. So he wants to transfer this project if anyone would commit.
If anyone wants to take it over, they can have a chat with Rasmus, because like I put in our discussion notes for this, like Rasmus built this actually just for a bit of fun. It was a passion project. It wasn't necessarily built because he wanted to create the solution for APIs and Umbraco. He made it for a bit of fun. Now people going, it's not been updated in 6 months, it's out of date, blah blah blah. I can see why that would be a bit demoralizing, demotivating. You've put a lot of work into it. It's your baby, it's your pet project. And just because he now works at Umbraco doesn't mean that he can't also have passion projects. So I understand where he's coming from, but I also totally appreciate that, like, time's limited as well. If he can find someone else that's equally passionate about the same project, 2 people can share the same passion project.
It just reminded me that I need to take a look on some issue raised last week for one of our packages. So I totally understand that as well. It's like we all need to look for help, and it's hard to find help, to be honest, because it's easy to say that something is not maintained, but it's hard to just do it from the other perspective.
There's two sides to open source. There is
Yeah.
there is the consuming and there is the giving back. And I feel like increasingly a lot of people in the open source world are consuming and not wanting to give back. And we're seeing this with Umbraco even. Like, it's been so many times where it said, "Oh, I hate this." Well, the answer is it's open source. You can go and fix that, or if you don't know how, pair up with someone. Someone else can help you out. I think we have become dependent on maintainers and their goodwill, perhaps, and that sometimes we need to give back a bit.
Yeah, I recall a lot of threads started by James South around this topic, as around image sharp and image processing packages that he has done in the past. How people are mean sometimes to just criticize the work and expect you need to fix it, and when it's just an open source project, sometimes hobby driven and passionate driven, and it's not like you can expect without giving back and understanding, at least. But that's a big topic. We can definitely talk about it for hours.
Yeah.
But maybe referring to giving back. Last week we had a great part of the Perplex team joining us for umbraCoffee, showing the marketing suite package, and as they've promised, they delivered the package, the open source package this time, which is content blocks from Perplex. And it's hard to see anything here. Maybe just a suggestion to maybe add some graphics, but there is a great demo of the block editor, which you've mentioned you've seen in the past.
Yeah, this was shown at Code Garden last year as part of Jeffrey's presentation about dreams for Umbraco, but also as part of the discussions for the new block editor in Core. This is like nested content, but with previews, and it's roughly what the block editor is going to be in Core. They've got some other cool stuff about choosing layout, having preview images of what something might look like. But the best bit is the actual live preview in that top right-hand corner. That's an iframe, so you're browsing the page or seeing the page change as you edit content, which is crazy.
Yeah. Plus, again, it looks like bundled into the Umbraco again. So great efforts around making it look native, right? It's not like it's just works or have a functionality, but it just looks smooth. And those editors, those model windows with all the fancy types of contents to be used are just making the editorial experience smooth and extremely better from just small default approach, or I would say. So that's something what we can definitely expect from better or ideal editor for rich text generation.
Indeed.
So yeah, really cool. It's open source. It's released. A big high five you rock for Perplex team again, and everyone can check it out and see how it's built, use it, test it, and release it with your products.
Yeah.
Other packages being released this week was Umbraco Forms Capture.
H Capture. So this is H Capture is like an alternative to the Google Capture service. So Aaron has built a nice integration for that.
Yeah. Did you see, by the way, not for humans?
No, I didn't.
Not for humans.com, something like that. There was a captcha which has a blurred images.
You have to try and guess.
Yeah, you need to guess, but I will find this URL and share it. It was really cool when it comes to captcha. The next one is recent activity dashboard, and it's a first package from
first ever package,
and it's really useful. I've seen people really using it and being happy of having this recent media and content activity gathered here. And so great package and great efforts made by Purnima to play with Umbraco packaging system and the way how packages are built for V8.
Yeah. And it looks very V8. Like it's not slapped together. It's been really well thought through.
Cool. So great work, Purnima. And the next one is Mimic, and that's another big.
This is cool because this is Craig Noble from Bristol. He's done effectively a Ditto-inspired model map of V8.
Yep.
I've not personally used Ditto in a very long time because I use Models Builder for almost everything. But this, there's definitely a use case for like view model mapping if you are going to do partial models and stuff. And yeah, this is for V8. It looks really cool.
Yeah, we are right now doing a really nice gathering of all the mappers in the .NET world plus Umbraco world, and probably we'll release some performance reports and which one is better to use where. But Craig, you've also flagged it, mentioned some kind of measurements and metrics compared to some other mappers on the market, let's say.
I know that because James South has his mapper, doesn't he?
Yes.
One of the big things for that was it's like as performant as it possibly can be, and he had tweaked that to the nth degree, and it was super fast. And he jumped in and said, look, maybe this could be faster. And Craig went away, profiled it, made some improvements, and has made this quite a lot faster, about 10% faster.
Again, good example of contribution back and giving back. Even if James is not actively maintaining his mapper, it's like check this out. If you want to apply it for your product, just do it and just make it work better without expecting or having a comparison between products or any fight type of discussion, which is cool. And Lars released the upgrades.
Content list beta. Content list V1 beta 6
with RSS component,
and RSS component V1 beta 1.
Lovely names, code names for products. But great. Another contribution from Lars. And as someone who played a lot with RSS recently, I can say that I feel this love again. I thought that they are not used anymore, but it looks like they are somewhere. So yeah, it looks really good. And that's from the packages. But about open source, there was also a candid contributions episode, totally covering a lot of topics which we already mentioned, a lot of issues and problems on the open source spirit and world. And there were great guests joining this episode.
Familiar faces there. We had Sebastian from HQ and Per formerly from HQ, and also Ashley, who's based in Scotland. Great episode.
Yeah, the whole discussion started really interesting about on Twitter when it comes back to the licenses and the way how open source is also understood in the community, and it's really nicely gathered and just summarized in this episode. So really highly good episode. And Skrift released a great issue this week as well, with an article from Christian about front-end umbraco, which I didn't check yet. The word front-end pushed it a little bit further on my to-do list.
Yeah, I get a bit scared of front-end too.
But it's here. It looks like a really good again tutorial, fully featured with how to integrate various things and build and deploy it from the perspective of probably a more front-end world here. And second one was about vendor, and here I focused for a while around that because we were exploring vendor recently and mentioning it here in umbraCoffee as well. So here is a great, again, big article,
very detailed on how Carbon 6, Paul and Gareth set up vendor for one of their clients, and looks great.
They've been the approach extensions,
They've been involved in the vendor product since like early days as one of the testers. So sharing their wisdom.
It's good to see it. Yeah, good to see that, and everyone who will be starting with vendor can just refer to that easily and use the famous method of copy paste to make it work. But also speaking about vendor, Paul Seal released and started the series on YouTube.
Part 1 and 2 this week. I don't know how many parts there's going to be, but they're lengthy videos. They're like between 25 and 40 minutes, which is substantial.
A lot. 42 minutes is the part 2, which is It's like a big live coding session, and Paul does a great job explaining things, usually doing his videos. So yeah, for everybody who wants to just set up vendor, it's a great set of resources. And I've seen Matt and vendor team also retweeted it and pushed it on their customers. So yeah, that's really great. And that's from the announcements about the products. But again, we have some meetups on which there will be some probably more interesting things to highlight. And Callum, you've been gathering the meetups, and there is an Umbraco London one.
Virtual online social event. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work, but Ravi's dealing with it, and there's going to be a quiz and a bit of other fun. So that's on Thursday coming up. And
the next one is we've already mentioned it. It's a virtual Dutch Umbraco meetup, which is on 14th.
The marketing edition. So if you're Dutch and interested in marketing, go to that. And if you want to do a quiz, come to the London one. Same day, same time.
Same day. It's a comparison between one of the biggest meetup groups probably. And yeah, product-wise again, we mentioned the Umbraco Models Builder team being formed. And Stefan informed us that they are right now considering and reviewing the submissions.
The deadline was the 5th of May, so Tuesday at 5:05 a.m. or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they also started a separated Twitter account for Umbraco Models Builder, which will gather all of the interesting stuff and announcements around this product. Already have 90 followers.
Wow.
So if you are interested in the future or the activity around Umbraco Models Builder in the newly formed team and way of maintenance, follow and see where it will go. And yeah, that's Models Builder. And two more things on our long list. There is how to use MailChimp with Umbraco Forms article highlighted this week. From
Krishna in
Yep, great setup of how to combine those two tools to speak to each other, and that's all. I thought that this is something new, but we've already discussed it and tried to demystify at least a little how those products can compare with each other. Really cool stuff. Really cool. Examples of really great contributions and totally open source spirit. There was one thing which I wanted to highlight, and you didn't highlight it from your side. There were two, not only two, but some of the mobile applications and general applications created for dealing with various situation COVID-19, and they were open sourced by NHS.
Yeah, this is interesting and quite controversial. And the same thing happened in Australia because
same in Poland as well.
Australia were the first people to bring out worldwide a COVID-19 tracing app, and theirs uses Google and Apple API, which they've released to do this. And it means that it's using a centralized system, so data can actually be shared, kind of all over the world, which is really helpful. A lot of people in Australia didn't trust the government, and so they went, we want to see the source code, and they did end up releasing the source code. Same things happened in the UK, except the UK government have decided to do their own app and not utilize any of the public APIs. So there was a lot of skepticism around what are they doing with our data. So they've then had a lot of pressure, and they've today open sourced it too. You said something similar happened in Poland?
Yeah, indeed, exactly the same situation was in Poland, and even better, maybe not better, but it's more further in terms of discussions, because it was open source, and there was a bunch of people who were working with this app before it was transferred to deal with the COVID-19 situation, and they said that government is not going towards the direction which this application had, and they flagged 20 or 25 issues with the potential security risks and why they are not using the protocols which you've mentioned from Apple and Google, but creating their own connections and sending data across various locations, which is probably breaking the old GDPR privacy and stuff like that. IP addresses, things which we've already mentioned, speaking even about your marketing suite last week. And in one evening on the GitHub, there were 20 or 25 issues about security, and during the same evening, they closed them all. No issues. Of course, without any code improvements, right? So
no issues. You don't have any issues. It's like your tweet yesterday about your daughter crossing off your to-do list.
Just done.
There's nothing on the list.
Done. No issues. Exactly. So yeah, it's interesting. It's open source still. You can see the source code. People are making a lot of time, efforts, and time dedications to help governments, and I also tweeted it that it's a little bit a shame that big corporates like Google and Apple are teaching governments how to deal with the privacy of their citizens.
Yes, it's true, and very dystopian given the track record of some of those companies. The thing that I think will be interesting is over the next few months, if these products are genuinely going to be open source, or if it's open source in name only, if they've just put the code up there to shut people up, or whether this is actually going to be a collaborative thing. I highly doubt it's going to be collaborative, but it will be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I've seen there was a lot of interesting insights for us as an Umbraco community, for example, how to deal with issues being created on GitHub, for example, to not close issues without even describing why it was closed or stuff like that. It's just simple things which are making the open source contribution ideally better. But it's great to see that. It's great to learn from that, and now no one knows. We'll see where it will go.
Indeed.
Cool. So that's it. That's a lot covered during this episode.
Another long episode. Sorry.
But we can see that there are still some people with us, so that's great. So, there are some cool comments here, and Darren,
of closed source and paid products and being able to validate the quality, and I totally appreciate that. That's very valid. I'd argue that for a kind of €99 product, people are going to be less concerned about validating it. They'll just give it a try, and if it doesn't work, bin it off. For a more expensive package, like Vendor, for example, €1,500, people are going to be a bit more cautious.
Yeah. Plus, usually in the more expensive products, you can always do the trial run, and still. I have a low level of trust for everybody, so I do my tests all the time, and even if I'm testing something, I just want to test it from my perspective to see if it's worked for me and for us. And if it does, that's a matter of I trust you, I pay you, thank you. And if it doesn't, you can always switch. That's the open market and possibilities right now on the market.
Yeah.
Cool, great discussion. Next one next week. And Callum, what was the final decision about the bar today? Are you opening the street?
It's a bank holiday in a load of places, but if people want to join for a quiet drink in the sun at 3:00 online, we'll share a link around and you can join us.
Yeah. So for those who are away and will be watching it or watching it right now, have a great rest of the day and long weekend if you are having any public holiday in your country. And for the rest, see you next